all the energy and the activities that I heard that you're planning and you're focusing on today, tomorrow, next week, next year is really, really encouraging. It's wonderful to see youth at the table. There's so many of our service clubs are aging. No offense intended, I'm in the group. But it's really, really important that we have youth coming up through Rotary, Kiwanis, all the community groups to continue the legacy that other folks have created and hopefully continue the wonderful, very, very important community giving. So you're doing tremendous work. And it helps me in my role to serve our communities when there's folks in the community serving the community at the grassroots level. So let me begin by highlighting that very, very important element. I am Mary Piepho. I represent District 3 on the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors. District 3 includes the communities of Blackhawk and Diablo, South Valley, Over the Mountain, Byron, Brentwood, Knightson, Discovery Bay, Oakley, Bethel Island, and most of Antioch. Did I get all of them? I think I got all of them. So in Bethel Island, yes, I think I said that. Largest district of all 5 at the county. We did redistricting after the last census, and lines have been shifted. Unfortunately, we have 3 cities split in this next 10 years of supervisorial districts, and I think that's a bad thing. We have 2 supervisors now representing Antioch, Supervisor Glover and myself. And I say it's bad because I feel like you get a diluted representation. Not from us individually, but when you go to contact your local supervisor, well, who do I go to? Where do I live? What's the issue? And it just gets confusing, in my opinion. And I say that because in my last district, we had a split city, which was Walnut Creek. But it was only 1 city that was split for the previous 10 years. Now we have 3. Sir.
Is there a line that splits Antioch?
Yeah,
what
it's
is
not
that?
A straight line.
But approximately, is it like Summersville Road?
It's East 18th. I have the north part, no, the south part of East 18th, and then I think around Medill it does a funny switch, and then up to Highway 4, and then everything south of Highway 4 is in District 3, and everything north, including the industrial area up to the John A. Nedgedley Bridge, also known as the Antioch Bridge. That's in Supervisor Glover's District 5.
Wow.
So it does a little whoop-de-doo.
Yes.
And and that also makes it more confusing because it's not a straight line. Hard to put a straight line on a map, but it's not a straight line.
Just comment. My husband actually dedicated that bridge, but just comment why you said it was the John Bridge.
Okay.
For those of us who didn't read it in a little book
that
about
was kind
Antioch.
of coming in to a little bit of my next intro, but that's
All right,
okay,
that's
Martha,
fine.
perfect timing. A little bit about my history before we get into the Delta, and Martha just touched on it. When I was born, my father was district attorney in this county. He went on to serve in the state legislature. He retired from the state legislature in 1980. In 1980 is when they passed, well, let me back up. During his leadership in the legislature, he secured funding to rebuild the Antioch Bridge. It used to be lower and old, and it had to open for freight traffic to go back and forth along the river up to the port. So he secured the funding, and consequently they named the bridge in honor of him. So most people refer to it as the Antioch Bridge, except for me. I refer to it as the John A. Nedgedley Bridge. Doesn't mean I get free tolls or anything, it's just really cool. So Martha's husband Barney opened the bridge, and my dad and my 2 brothers were the first vehicle over in his old Model A.
Yes, you got to walk.
And a lot of people walked, so a lot of history. But water was very important to my father, and in his term in the legislature, he helped to fight against the water legislation that then Governor Brown was securing to transport, to export more water from the Delta to Southern California. And in 1982, he worked really hard to defeat the proposal on the ballot to build the Peripheral Canal, and it was defeated statewide. So I bring that up, not just because of the bridge, but at that time I was just graduating from high school. I was still fairly young, and it is young youth, disconnected. But yet I learned, and I heard, and I saw, and I watched. And my dad continued his advocacy on behalf of the Delta until virtually the day he died. He passed away in 2006, almost May 92. But as I grew up, beyond those high school years, he would continue his advocacy. I'd help him type papers. he would really continue to fight to preserve and protect our Delta and our region's interests. And he swore that the day I die, the peripheral canal would come back up. It did. I don't think that's destiny or anything. I just think it's circumstantial. But the fight did come back in 2007, 2008, and we have the 2009 water legislation, SBX 71, that created now the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, the Delta Stewardship Council, and the renewed fight and discussion about transporting more water from the Delta to Southern California. So we have an old legacy and a continued problem. So we do have a conveyance issue that we are battling. The City of Antioch has tremendous leadership on this issue. Contra Costa Water District has tremendous leadership. The City of Antioch pulls their community water directly from the Delta, and the proposal is to build, at this time, 2 giant facilities, possibly 3,000 cubic feet per second, just south of Sacramento, near Freeport. So instead of a peripheral canal, which was the old fight, now they want to build north of us and dig underneath the Delta and then export down back into Clifton Court Four Bay area and export more water south. Significant problems and challenges for us economically, recreationally, from a water quality standard, and an impact from supplies. The Delta already suffers from a lack of flow. It affects all those components, and now they're talking about exporting more water without including the discussion of water storage, the need for water storage when we have excess water to pull from the Delta and store. So it's a huge fight, it's a huge battle, and guess who the governor is?
Another Brown.
We have Governor Brown times 2, the same governor, the same fight. Although I will say it's a bipartisan fight because Arnold Schwarzenegger, under his Republican administration, was part of SBX 71. So both have Southern California interests, both have, I dare say, significant egos that they want to use these major projects as their landmark on their leadership. And unfortunately, we will be affected by that directly and negatively. It could be a $22 billion project. That's current estimates. That does not include bond or debt costs. So you just double that. It does not include local leadership at the table, which is something that we're fighting and advocating for. And there is no thorough cost-benefit analysis. And it doesn't, most importantly, does not create 1 ounce of water.
Wow.
There's absolutely no creation of any additional water supplies. It just moves it from one location to another. So it's a very, very important fight. It's one I encourage you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about, encourage you to engage in. Again, the City of Antioch's been a tremendous leader on the issue. I'm hoping that we can continue to get more folks, more stakeholders at the table. The City of Oakley and the City of Brentwood, even though they may not get their water directly from the Delta, we're still affected as a community and as a county. So working with the 5 Delta counties, we've developed a coalition to work to advocate, to fight on the issue. We have significant support from our local congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. Congressman Miller, being a senior member of the leadership in D.C., has been huge. And our state delegation locally has been very supportive. But we are, once again, the mouse in the trap. You know, LA has a lot of money, a lot of political influence, and a lot of power. And they're using it to our disadvantage. So we keep advocating for good science, good policy, good leadership. My dad said in the old days, hell no, go away. I'm trying to be a little more pragmatic and saying, okay, we have a resource. What are its capabilities? What is available to share? When can we share it? How are we going to manage that? And then we can have a discussion. But that's not the conversation. That's not the path. They're saying, we're going to take it. We will control when we're going to take it. And you're not going to have any say in it. So again, we will be left with all the impact. So the physical impacts to us, I have some flyers to hand out to you. Karen, you have them over there. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce Karen Parnell, my field rep. Karen, my apologies. Okay. What she's going to pass out is the route for the tunnel. You can see it's a big red line straight through the Delta underneath. Contra Costa County will be affected by the tunnel muck. We will be the storage area for the tunnel muck. And the tunnel muck, John, you might appreciate this from your background, 7,000 cubic yards of tunnel muck produced each day,
Wow.
enough to cover 100 football fields to a height of roughly 100 feet.
Every day.
Per day?
No, that's total,
Total.
but 7,000 per day. So that's down here at the end, the south of the page there. That's where we were going to be seeing that muck collected. The second one is the bore machinery that they will be using to bore the tunnels. This you see the little man, the dark man near the wheel. That's life-size figure of the capacity of the machinery that they will be using to bore the tunnels through the delta. And then we have some artist rendering. These documents are directly from the Bay Delta Conservation Plan documents, the BDCP documents, and particularly on figure 17.3 and 17.3K, you see nice, quaint, bucolic delta communities with massive projects built in the channel. These are legacy communities. They're hundreds, over 100 years old. Small communities struggling to survive in a robust California economy. Hopefully we're growing that way. And these projects will devastate them just from construction alone, let alone impact from the loss of water. And lastly, we have contacts for you of getting involved, who to contact if you wish to write letters, and engage in the discussion and help to advocate for our delta. We do support being a part of the comprehensive statewide water management plan, but we're not going to be able to provide the water at our expense to someone else's benefit, and we are going to lose significantly in that equation. Lastly, I have some bumper stickers or other pronouncements if you want to. If you can't write a letter, stick something on your bumper and help the movement move. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. I know we're on a tight timeline, but I want to answer questions. Sir.
Oh, a couple of things first. When you say these robust little towns, you like the Freeports
Yeah,
and so forth that go up higher 160.
Isleston.
As you heard me say, I took a quick trip to Sacramento the other day, and probably 15 to 20 places along the way to stop the tunnel. Stop sign is what it is. So I came down to this area about 13 years ago to teach Kentucky government, among other things, and I've been politically aware since I was a teenager, so I call that bridge the niche.
The niche.
I'm probably not
I
the
like
first
that.
one to call that the niche, and Jay, I guess. Tell me, Mary, has it ever been considered, now I'm not an engineer, and I don't even play one on TV, has it ever been considered taking that money and build some storage facilities in the South?
Well, no, and that's part of our concern and our advocacy is the current plan, as expensive as it is, does not include storage capacity. And there are times when we have too much water. We want to give it away because we're flood risk. And we can work together at those times for everybody's benefit. They have built a few water storage facilities. They're not doing enough, frankly, north and south. We had Los Vaqueros here that the Contra Costa Water District built. They had plenty of opportunity for partners to engage and participate on a funding level and a project level. They couldn't get them. Even Santa Clara Water District, which is an exporter of the Delta, they didn't want to participate in it. They didn't see it as their need or their problem. So water storage is huge, and until we have water storage, levy funding, talking about flows and restoration of the Delta and what the Delta needs to be restored and to maintain health, we shouldn't be talking at all because those should be the fundamentals. And Southern California wouldn't want us to come in and do a boondoggle project in their backyard without those elements and that protection for local government to be protected. Kern County, Central Valley farmers, they want our water. Farming is a huge economic value to our state. We have farmers up here too. Our farmers need the water too, and we can't give up that right. Additionally, let's look at the high-speed rail plan project, like it or not. Central Valley folks don't like it. It's in their backyard. Well, we don't like what's going on in our backyard. Maybe we have a common area of advocacy, different projects, but same impact. You know, you're being impacted for a statewide project, a legacy project in your local community. How are you going to address the leadership needs and the funding needs and the future needs of that? What's the adaptive management? The list is extensive about what the impacts are, but storage is critical, it's key, and it's not on the table, which is really frustrating. Sir, you got a question?
Yes. I've been confused about a couple of things regarding water. One is the difference between the Sacramento River and the San Joaquin River, and we had a discussion Saturday about it, so I'm a little clearer on that, but I'm not clear on what is the definition of the delta.
Well, it's here.
Right?
The delta was defined in the original Delta Reform Act in the 90s, I don't remember the year exactly, and was renewed and altered. It was changed with the 2009 SB Act 71 legislation. So the Delta Reform Act defines the geography of the Delta through the Delta Protection Commission. It's 5 Delta counties: Sacramento, Solano, Yolo, San Joaquin, and Contra Costa. And this map essentially represents that Delta Protection Commission area map of defining the Delta and its geography.
Where does it end on the Antioch side? Is that just the paper edge, or is that the border of the delta on the Sacramento River that's shown on this map?
The Delta Protection Commission map is somewhere around the bridge. The Delta in its environment, we always move west where it meets with the bay, because we feel it's really, really important that we don't unlink the Delta from the bay. And I don't want to confuse your question, because there's many, many advocates that want the bay preserved. They've been through 30 years of restoration. And if you unlink them and you devastate the Delta, it will have a hugely negative effect on the bay. So that develops our advocacy. So to be precise, we have a Delta Protection Commission Delta map, and then we have sort of the Delta, which we want to have expansive influence in the dialogue because it helps benefit the whole Bay Area and increases our opportunity for advocacy.
Okay, now you're nailing it down. Where does the delta meet the bay? That, I guess, is my question.
You know, I don't know specifically, but it's going to be out near the Sassoon Marsh, and the line changes, and we have what's called the X2 line, which is the salinity line, right about at the edge of the map here, right on the margin, and that's the important line where we keep salt water out. So but that flows back and forth east and west with the tide, of course. So it's really.
So it's defined by the salinity and the fresh water.
Yes. That's
the line that defines the delta and the bay. And I understand that line moves, but it moves somewhere between Pittsburgh and Antioch.
Historically, it used to really be out by Sassoon, because we had such significant flow coming down. It used to be out by the Sassoon Marsh. It comes up more towards Antioch now, but typically between Pittsburgh and Antioch, Martha.
And from November to February, it's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And from the rest of the year, it's closer in Antioch, more into.
Yeah, so it's right in that general area, flowing back and forth.
What about Northern California requesting water from the Colorado